Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Finweek Money Matters. Remember, this is the show that helps you manage your finances. I'm Dumisho Greater. Coming up on the show today, we take a look at how important it is for e-commerce players to provide good customer experience online. And we'll also discuss the outlook for Vodacom and MTN. Then later on, I'll be joined by a panel of experts to tell us how to crash-proof your investment portfolios. That's all coming up later on. But before we delve into all of that, do remember that we welcome your comments, so please email us and you can send your feedback to moneymatters@abn360.com. But first, let's take a look at this week's Trend of the Week. Brand loyalty does not exist in the online retail space. Now, to prevent customers from the dropping of the shopping basket online, retailers need to ensure that their e-commerce sites perform optimally. I'm joined by Brendon Williamson. He's the General Manager of Business Development of payment services provider PayGate. I will be discussing how to create a good online shopping experience. Brendon, thanks for your time. But first off, let's talk about the trends. So globally, this has picked up. We have seen e-commerce definitely being taken up. How have we done right here in South Africa?
Thanks for having me, Timmy. In terms of the growth rate of e-commerce in South Africa, we've seen a phenomenal rate in terms of the acceptance of e-commerce generally. Looking at percentage shown, we're up 93% over 2013. With much of the adoption rate happening within the service sector, with consumers being a lot more comfortable in terms of transacting online, when it comes to paying things like electricity, utility bills, etc. And the stats showing that we have at least the consumer that is transacting online doing this once or even more so on a weekly basis. The stats are very favorable as well in terms of the growth rates from a mobile sector, with mobile increasing drastically by 47% in terms of the usage of mobile to access the online realm. We ourselves in PayGate have experienced close on a 600% growth rate in terms of the contact points with consumers interacting with us through our touch points on our website. So South Africa as a whole is a very favourable position with regards to the e-commerce and future spending possibilities within this realm.
So it's good to see that it is picking up here, but just tell us about some of the no-nos. What are the common mistakes that retailers usually make online?
I think the most fundamental one, or the big one that retailers do make is creating or designing or having a website designed and placed out there on the big wide world of the web, and expecting that consumers will literally just find them. The World Wide Web latest indications show that we now have over 4.4 billion pages listing websites. So it's very much the same principles of a brick and mortar store. The efforts that you would put into advertising, or the same efforts need to be placed in terms of placing your website on store. Some of the other no-nos as well in terms of some of the mistakes made are assuming that you would not be attacked by online fraudsters attempting to gain the benefits of your products. It's a very big reality, not only in South Africa but worldwide. One of the lessons that we teach is always to make sure that you understand your averages within the brick and mortar store before going into the online realm. An idea of that is if you sell 10 pairs of shoes on a daily basis within your normal land-based store, if you suddenly start selling 60 pairs of shoes in your online store within the first launch, those are indicators that should be looked at and say, well, possibly are these true transactions happening? Is it possibly a fraudulent attack, etc.? So no, not getting too excited too soon, I think, is one of the lessons that we should take. And then general no-nos would account to in terms of just the layout of the website as well, in terms of where things should be placed, not too much clutter. And also making sure that the customer, when they come to your website, trusts you as the online retailer.
Brendon, just to jump
provider.
in there, because you just mentioned the layout of the website is very important. Just how important is it for to make sure the consumers are able to make the payment rather easily? I don't want to have to look around and see where I need to click, and if at all this is actually a secure website. Is enough attention being given to that aspect?
So in terms of the website layout, the actual checkout process, the customer coming into actually the website and getting to that payment process is a fundamental in terms of the design and the outlay of your website. The key thing is to ensure that it's not a cluttered site. So what we speak about is if you go into a shopping center or you go into a store, the cereals are all stacked with the cereals. The dairy is all within the dairy products. And the same principles apply to your online store, is making sure that the customer gets in, is able to find what they're looking for, and then can proceed to the checkout process. And in doing that, it is without as many hoops as possible. So and making sure that when they get to the payment process or the payment aspect of the website, that it looks authentic. They can see it's associated, in terms of the right cards schemes behind it. In terms of we know the Masters and the Visa card logos are present. So very much in terms of the authenticity and the quality of that page is fundamental in making the customer be comfortable in terms of following that process with you as the online store.
Obviously, you would see different peaks or trends at different times of the year. So when it comes to festive season in December, you might see a lot more traffic. Are retailers able to control this and make sure that they are able to respond to larger volumes?
Very much so. Worldwide, we see what we call seasonal transacting. South Africa has kind of grown into it in terms of whether we see more transacting during the winter period because it's colder, so not many consumers would go out or leave home, so they prefer to stay indoors and shop online. In the US, we see that quite drastically in terms of the winter months, and Canada in terms of the snow, and consumers have been more comfortable doing their shopping online within the comfort of their warm homes. So very much so in terms of the volume drive, and a very important factor in terms of catering for that volume is making sure that your payment service providers' systems can cater for increased volume coming through your website. So it's not only the actual retailer's website or the service provider's website that needs to be looked at, it's also the stakeholders behind that and whether their systems can accommodate it. And a big part of that process is the payment process, because that's what you're after. You're after the customer making that payment. So if your payment service provider can't cater for the volumes, then we've got an issue.
Infrastructure
we work very closely with it.
Brendon, we're going to have to leave it at that, but I think just getting to your final point there, infrastructure certainly is key in order to make sure that you can respond to the bigger volumes and make sure that it's a good experience for the consumer. Thanks so much to Brendon Williamson. He's the General Manager of Business Development of payment services provider PayGate. Now it's time for us to take a look at this week's cover story.